first. Excited for today?
Yeah.
Good. Must be excited. So, tell us a little bit about your robot.
Well, the way we designed our robot was we all came up with ideas and listed them on the board for what our robot was going to have on it. And we wanted our robot to be both simple yet versatile, that we can accomplish as many tasks in the actual field competition. And our plan was to have it score in all of the periods, autonomous, teleop, and endgame. And using those characteristics, that's basically how we designed our robot.
Some of the goals we had were we wanted to have the robot lift our alliance robot as well as score, so try to protect both. And for scoring, we wanted to get the initial 50 points for autonomous, the IR, and then for driver control, we wanted to have 2 reins, top, third peg, top of the columns, 2 on each peg, and hopefully 1 in the corner, but we had to dial that back to about 90 points overall. And instead of, we'll talk about the arm later, but you only reach the 2nd peg, so that kind of limits that up to the 3rd, but we can still probably reach it later. Okay.
As far as the drivetrain goes, we went with treads as opposed to wheels because we found that it was easier to turn and it provided more traction, so we could get up the center floor goal more easily. Our chassis itself is very low to the ground, so we don't get knocked around by other robots when we're out on the field. And as you can see, the sprocket and motor are positioned towards the front of our treads. It made it easier to get up the center floor goal. And to begin with, we had the motor and sprocket positioned in the middle of the treads, but it kept slipping because obviously there's more traction when the treads are actually wrapped around the sprocket.
Right.
Yeah, and then our goal with the robot lifting was initially to lift our partner robot 10 inches off the ground. So we started by brainstorming ideas such as like a scissor lift or pick it up, I guess. But then, so we ended up picking the scissor lift as our idea. So we came up with multiple prototypes, including this, which would be double on each side and lifted up. Well, after lots of work on it, we ended up kind of running out of time with the scissor lift idea, so we postponed it until hopefully our next competition to have it up and running. And so what we ended up doing then is that we mounted our platform on just the chassis, which is now 5 inches off the ground, which still gets us 2 points. And some of the problems we ran into that was the fact that we had to be able to reach the motor easily, so we tried to cut a hole in the platform, but that didn't work and actually ended up breaking the platform. So what we had to do was we made it into 3 separate pieces so that it was space for someone to reach in and reach the motor. Batteries.
This is our ramp right here, and at the beginning we used a simple design. We just start with a simple hinge and a servo with a short flat bracket on front of it so it can go side to side. We use cardboard as our ramp for the prototype, and we're trying to figure out like how to put the ramp down so that our alliance partner can get up. And so that idea was pretty simple and an easy way. But we also had to figure out how can we not let it fall down during inspection. So we put a flat bracket in there so even if the rod just jerks a little bit, the ramp won't go down. And then we also came down to which type of material we would use for the ramp, and it came down to texture parts or acrylic right here. And so we found out that acrylic was lighter and sturdy, so we went with that. And we also had to figure out, since if you can see the front of the robot under the ramp, that there's a channel right there, so we could have put the servo right there so that the flat bracket could be in the front. So we had to put the servo back and have make a little slit in the acrylic with the motor right there. Yeah, right there.
Okay.
And so at the beginning, once we made that little adjustment, we used a short flat bracket, but it did not give us enough force to push the ramp in the end game. So we went with the longer one, and it gives a lot more force to push it down so our line spark can get up. And plus, it was easy for the flat bracket to go up and down. And as you can see, this tape right here is our traction tape, which is this right here. Because our line partner may either have wheels or treads. So this right here will give it a lot more traction with our robot instead of using the acrylic, which the acrylic is slipperier, very slippery, and so our line partner can get up there quickly, but have enough traction to get up there to our platform.
And to add to that, we put these here so that the acrylic stays sturdy when it flips down and the robot drives up.
It doesn't crack when the large forces apply.
Have you had a robot try out your ramp yet?
Yes, we
We had 2 robots, but one problem we had with that was because of our low chassis, when we tried to go up that angle, this would catch on to the bottom of the floor, so we couldn't get all the way up. So we were expecting in this competition, it would someone with a different chassis or wheels could get up easier than our.
Our arm was designed initially as an extendable arm. We were thinking of like tubes nestled inside of tubes to kind of extend like that, like a telescope. And then we went to an extendable like door sliders, but we had a hard time motorizing both of those, so we had to put those in the archives. And we figured out that it was a lot easier just to make a fixed arm. So we used tubular channels. We used the longest one we could find, and we found this. This allows us to reach the second peg as well as the first peg in the dispensers and cornigles and everything else. We also motorized it with gears, going from small, big, small, big. So that way it gives us more power and less speed, but not limiting our speed too much.
Our scoop, when we first started brainstorming ideas to see the harvest and score, we came up with 3 different ideas, which were our scoop, a claw, and a hook. And we prototyped them all, and we decided on our scoop. Our original design for our scoop used Tetrix parts, and then we changed it and used cardboard, and it could harvest a single ring there. And then when we changed our strategy to harvest 2 rings, we widened it, and then we used sheet metal for our final scoop and covered it in the silver duct tape because the sheet metal was really sharp. And we put a cardboard separator in there so that it keeps the rings separate when we harvest them, and it holds them in together.
When we were wiring the chassis, originally we wired the battery to the high Technic servo controller and the motor controller, but it wasn't organized, and there were wires everywhere, and we wanted space for the battery. So we had to think of a different way to wire things, and we started using we started using Anderson power poles to wire, and those were pretty, they were really easy. They were neat and easy to organize, but we also used a power splitter, so we could organize it all into one spot instead of having the Anderson power poles all over the place, and this was really easy to find our battery placement and keep all the wires out of the way for everything else.
Okay. And then I take it your Samantha plugs into that too, and all of your controllers?
Yep.
Yeah, everything goes.
Our high Technic force motors and servos are down on the bottom, so we have enough space to pull the
Yeah.
chassis.
One of the ideas we had that we hadn't got to implement other than the scissor lift was the idea of weighing the rings to put on corner goals. And originally when I designed the scoop, I left this space so that we could possibly secure the high technic force sensor in there. And basically, yeah, it would help us weigh the rings in order to know when to put on a corner goal, and we would use the high technic Super Pro board and LED bulbs to show the drivers when if there are like 2 heavy rings in or something like that. And we have built a prototype of it with an NXT robot, and it has been working pretty well so far. So in our next competition, we're probably going to have that up and running and ready to weigh the rings for us.
I use Robot-C to program this robot. I had prior experience with the programming language of C, so it's a little easier for me to program it. And to manage our versions of our software, so like yesterday's version and then today's different version, which is like all new code and stuff, I use GitHub. And basically, if today I like mess up the code and I can't change it back to like an older version, I can just go onto GitHub, find what I did wrong, and then fix it on there, and it'll be working just like normal. So when we first had our basic robot, it was just drivetrain, just tracks and a basic chassis. So I just put in a simple code that just made it move forward, backwards, left, turn left and right. It didn't do very much, and the drivers had perfect time moving in. Until we came up to the problem that the drivers couldn't get to the right spot, and then they had to like fiddle with the controls, and they sometimes overcorrected or undercorrected, and took them a while to get the line. So I put in like a nudge function. So it's much easier for them to actually align themselves with the pegs or wherever they wanted to align themselves up for practice. And so they didn't have to like fiddle with the controls and take like a big amount of time trying to just get one spot. And then we added an arm. First of all, I just made it to the y-axis of one of the joystick, which is just the up and down. And it was very unpredictable, and it jerked a lot and almost damaged the robot at one time. So I looked back in the code, and I used the same code for the treads, which had this limiting factor, because even if the joystick might be centered at 0, it can vary. And so I put in like this dead zone code, so that if it's in this dead zone, nothing happens, but as soon as you get out of it, it starts moving. And it became much more predictable, it didn't move as fast, and it didn't like jerk as much. And then we added our servo to the actual arm. And the same as the arm, I wrapped it to the y-axis, but this one was predictable and it didn't jerk. But every time we let go of the axis, it always went back to its original spot. So it wasn't very practical because they had to hold the axis down. They have to hold it back to harvest, and then if they let go, the rings can just fall right out. So I looked on the FTC forums and I found this code, simple code, which basically to the D-pad, which is like the little plus pad, and then I put it to that, and now it just, when you press up or down, it goes to that slowly, and it stays at that spot and doesn't come right back. And then we added our ramp, the ramp motor down here, to move our ramp up. And at first, I just used like a nudge, and I used a nudge function type thing, so it didn't like if you press A and it didn't go all the way up and like shatter our ramp. So I used like a nudge so it slowly comes up, and it doesn't like break the ramp or anything. And at first we didn't have enough power on the motor, and at the end we had to put it to a full 100 to get that thing all the way over.
How are we doing on time?
We got a couple minutes to wrap up. About 2-3 minutes here now.
One question I had for you is, in your engineering notebook, it looks like it's been printed off online or something?
Yeah, we use a blog to record everything for our
Okay.
daily practices. And during each of our practices, we had teammates take turns typing up everything we did for that day. And then the little tabs are points of interest of stuff we might have done.
Mm-hmm. And the one other question we had is, it has a different team number on the top. Can you explain that?
Oh, well, originally we started out as 2 different teams, but then we combined together, so possibly
okay.
that might have happened.
Okay. Is that why your
That's
name
kind of why
is
our
kind of
name is
weird?
messed up, yes. Because actually what we were going to do is Nathan, Joel, Carter, and I were going to be in one team what we call the Robo Dragons. because that was our FLL team last year.
Mhm.
But then we realized we didn't have enough members, so we combined with Jacob's team, and now we're one complete new team. So
Okay.
that's why the different members.
So how much time do you guys spend during the week doing this? On an
About
average
5 hours a week. Does that sound right?
We have like a
And
3-hour
then-
practice on Sunday, 2-hour practice on Thursday, and every
And-
3 weeks is a Monday
For 2 hours?
for 2 hours.
Anything
I
else you want to touch on? Otherwise, we're getting close on time here, so.
I'm good.
All right, this is a great presentation, guys. Covered everything pretty well. Thank you, and good luck today.
Thank you.